For today's project, I have this center ring from a large embroidery hoop and this horseshoe that I made out of cardboard with my subscription group a few days ago. Really wanted to get that in on a craft before the season's over. And then some of these wooden shamrocks. I have 2 large ones and 1 small one. And I'm going to put them together to make a horseshoe and shamrock wreath. I'm going to start by painting my hoop, and I'm going to be using some of this truffle chalk paint and spritzing in a little water just to thin it out and kind of wipe it on around that ring with this brush, and then using my wet wipe to wipe it the rest of the way around. I'm going to go on the outside and the inside, and this is just so that it has kind of a light coverage and looks a little more stained than just thickly painted. Once that's dry, I'm going to use some of this twine just to kind of go around it in and out to give it just a little bit of texture and interest so it's not so plain. I just kind of glued that in piece there, and then I'm going to wrap it all the way around, and once I get to the end, I'll just snip it and glue it back to that same place where I started. And that just gives me a cute little inexpensive base. Then I'm going to use some of this distress ink in the color Walnut Stain and just kind of rub around on that twine so that it doesn't look so brand new. Next, I'm going to work on my shamrocks. I'm going to give them a drop of leaf green paint and spritz them with a little mist of water and rub that in with my wet wipe. I just wanted it to have kind of a thin, more stained coverage as well, not just a thick coat of paint, because I'm going to be working in layers to really do some shading here. So I'm going to take this antique wax and go around the edges and a little bit across with my wet wipe just to give it another shade of color. It kind of changes the green in the places where I rub it on. And then I'm going to use some of this cinnamon color acrylic paint with my sponge just to kind of sponge it around the edges and give it kind of a dried look. And then I'll take some of this ink chalk paint and use my wet wipe here to wipe that around those edges and do some shading there, being sure really to get in those grooves and where the stems attach, and just kind of giving it some interest and dimension and shading there. And if you need it to wipe a little bit better, you can always spritz a little extra water on your wipe or in your paint. Now I have all my main pieces made and it's time to put it together. So I'm going to start applying some hot glue to the side of that ring and then attach my shamrock so that it's kind of to one side. And then I'm just reinforcing it on the back side with some extra hot glue to make sure that it stays in place. And I mentioned earlier that I had pre-made this horseshoe, so all I did was cut it out of cardboard. I painted it brown, and then I sponged on some black and some cinnamon color paint, and then I used some Mod Podge and some real cinnamon to add to those rusty spots that I created with the paint, just to give it a little bit of a 3D effect. And this piece was inspired by JnA Woodcrafts. She has an awesome wood kit with the shamrock and the horseshoe that she did a few weeks ago. It was really beautiful, so I wanted to recreate it. But if you like to get those wood crafts, then definitely go check her page out. So you can see that I added a little moss to the bottom of my horseshoe. I'm giving my shamrocks a light sanding just to scuff them up a little, and then I'm gluing them in place at the bottom of that horseshoe. Just making sure that I really reinforce them with some hot glue and layering in that moss and the shamrocks in different angles and different layers. And then I'm going back across the top of those shamrocks with a little hot glue and some more of that moss. And then I wanted to add a little greenery, so I cut some small pieces from my Baby Tears hanging bush from Hobby Lobby. I've really gotten a lot of use out of that piece this spring. And to decorate the top of the shamrocks, I have these safety pins that I rusted up, and I will put that link in the comments if you're interested in doing some for yourself. And I'm just tying some jute string in a little bow around one of the legs, and then I'm going to glue it onto the front of my shamrock. And you could use a rusty bell here too. I just wanted to try something different. And for the top, I'm making a little sign out of some drop cloth that I coffee stained. I'm stamping on the word blessings just right there in the middle, kind of starting with that middle letter and working my way toward each side so that it's good and centered. Then I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue and scrunch up each end so that it stretches across the top of my horseshoe. And I know the word lucky is a popular term with the horseshoe and all of that, but I really believe in divine purpose, so I chose to use the word blessings instead. Once I got both sides glued down, I kind of just trimmed off the extra and worked on my edges a little. And then for my hanger, I'm using some rusty wire here. I'm just wrapping around the end of a paintbrush to make it kind of curlicue and tying it and wrapping it around the top of my hoop ring. And here's how it turned out. I really love the shading on those shamrocks and really just everything about this little craft. Thanks so much for watching my video today. I'm wishing you many blessings, and I hope this inspired you to get a little crafty.